Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Mind Over Masculinity, the podcast where we unravel the myths, rebuild the man, and also challenge the cultural scripts that have long kept us silent. Yes, you heard that correct. I'm your host Avik, and today's episode is a powerful deep dive into the new masculinity, one that trades the armor of stoicism for the strength of emotional intelligence. Yes. And who better to guide us than Carlos Davidovich? So, welcome to the show, Carlos.
Thanks a lot for the invitation, Avik. I'm delighted to be here.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Carlos, for joining us today. And before we delve deep into the topic, I'll quickly love to introduce you with all the listeners. Dear listeners, Carlos is a medical doctor, international executive coach, TEDx speaker, and the author of Five Brain Leadership. Yes. So Carlos blend cutting edge neuroscience with lived insight, offering a compelling new map for male leadership, identity, and the vulnerability as well. So together we are exploring today the roots of you can say the masculine identity from the mythopoetic depths of Iron John to the modern pressures of performance, competition, separation, and many more, and how we might evolve into something more whole, more human. So, dear listeners, I'll not take much of your time. Buckle up because this is not just a conversation, it's actually an invitation to reimagine what being a man can actually mean. So, welcome to the show again, Carlos.
Thanks a lot. Really. Let's go. Let's go there.
Lovely. So Carlos, I I was reading and I found that you use the term uh new masculinity, like I
Yeah.
also mentioned in the beginning. So what does that term actually mean? I mean, if you can share like how it is different from that old script.
It's a great question. And we need to, it's so interesting how life works in cycles, you know?
Yep.
So I was, and I need to say, I mean, 30 years ago, we started working. I was living in Argentina still. There was, I was born and raised there. And we were in that moment was when Iron John was a book that became quite popular in United States and Europe, and there was kind of a movement where, in few words, was the new masculinity was about let's recognize, accept, and live with our sensitivity as much as we need it, and not to play the macho game.
Yeah.
And I tell you, I remember that we started the group in Argentina, Buenos Aires. I started myself with a couple of friends because we felt completely lost. We didn't know what to talk to people, to men that were talking only about sports. I love sport. Don't get me wrong, but just about sports or about let's say romantic conquers. They're not to get into any details. But in the end, what is behind was to show how strong they can be. And also it's about to compete in a permanent basis.
Yeah.
And we were so tired about it that we decided, hey, let's start a circle of men to try to talk about different things. Okay, long story short, that lasts like a couple of years. We were like in one moment the circle was like a 70 people, all men that got the need to express their emotions in a completely free way and to be accepted and to be listened, that is part of our being. So to be masculine is not about to play, I will say, half part of the movie. This kind of a strong and macho aspect. No. Then you are missing the other half or maybe more. That is the level of sensitivity that we can have as a human being.
Exactly.
And it was a revolution. And I tell you, I started a group in Buenos Aires. Then I moved to Europe. I started a group in Spain. So, and that started moving really, really fast. But I think that it was kind of, like again, like the wave, going down.
Yeah.
And I was reading lately, I will say, I don't know, I mean, maybe 1 year ago, whatever, that now again, there is like a new peak.
Yeah.
And that's why there is a podcast like yours. And also, there is another podcast, maybe I can give you the link in United States, exactly in the same topic. It's a
Okay.
fantastic guy that's exactly what you do in United States. And if you are interested, I can connect you with him because it's a great, great guy. I
Lovely.
think more or less your age, and is interested in exactly the same thing.
Wow.
So, sorry.
Mm.
So when I found out, and it's like this. I mean, of
Yeah.
course, you always think that when there is a movement, something will stay forever. It's no life.
True.
Life is ups and downs. Of course, I kept living my life in
Mm.
this term of new masculinity, let's say, being able to express myself, express my sensitivity, uh,
Mm.
cry if I need to cry, and listen also
Yeah.
in an empathetic way,
Mm.
accepting that from other men. I had a chance to live in different countries,
Mm.
and even Canada, and it was the same pattern. So it was very interesting because I did my own research, and when I was dealing with executive, because I am executive coach, so you deal with top people. Of course, the majority are men still. That's the truth. And then you can start at the moment you start, scratching the surface. There you can reach a different level of communication. So what I'm trying to say is, in my experience, I think that every single man understand what we are talking, but
Definitely.
the social pressure
Mm.
doesn't allow them to express it in completely, I mean, free way.
Mm.
So I was coaching top people. I'm still coaching top guys, and I always, okay, we play, say, the win game.
Yeah.
But as you know, we live in a VUCA world. So a world of volatility, uncertainty. And that created something that I love to bring. Tell me,
Mm.
stop me if I'm talking too much, please, Avik.
Yeah, sure. Please, please. I'd love to hear. Yeah.
And then another term came to the mainstream in business. That is a different definition of vulnerability.
Okay.
And for me was the richness of that definition was
Mm.
fantastic. The Normally the word vulnerability had a very negative marketing. To be vulnerable
Yeah.
is to be weak. Is that you can, I mean, you cannot deal with a situation.
Mm.
This is not the real definition of vulnerability.
Mm.
Vulnerability, based on the work of Brené Brown, that is a
Sure.
fantastic TED Talks and documentaries of her, she defined it as uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure.
Mm.
At the moment that you define vulnerability in that way, there is no way not to be
Mm.
vulnerable. All of us, we are vulnerable because the future is uncertain, because you always take risk, and because your emotions are always involved and exposed. So
Exactly.
the process, I think, is just to be self-aware more and more
Mm.
about what really is happening inside of us.
Correct.
And that is what I work in my coaching sessions. I don't openly talk like we are talking now about the new masculinity, but I just say, hey, what about this? What about that? What about this situation? How did you feel about it? And when they start expressing, when they know, when they have the space or the room to express, it's amazing how then you can find out that there is a common place for everyone. The need to express this of human being that is a different way to express masculinity.
Mhm.
Make sense?
Wow, exactly, exactly makes sense. Definitely. So here, definitely, I'd love to mention that a lot of men I speak uh, uh, to feel stuck in the middle and
Yeah, it's good.
between yeah exactly between who they are, I mean who they were taught to be, and who they went to become. So uh, I guess they are in the middle of it, and that initial space is very very tough, very very scary, but also powerful. I think that this is where transformation lives. I mean,
Exactly. And I think that I tell you something even more. Now that we are talking in this way,
yeah, yeah.
I think that the expression,
Mm,
without getting into politics, because I will not,
mm,
the expression of certain male leaders of
mm,
super macho is reflecting that there is a counterpart
mm.
of a lot of masculinity that needs exactly the opposite. Makes sense what I'm saying? So,
Exactly.
you know, the life has a balance. Always there is, you know, yin and a yang, and you have the two sides, and always life is polarity. And of course, and the spiritual way to is to overcome polarity, you know, to go to the third term. But in this case, when I see all these people, all these, uh, I use the word macho because it's not the word. This kind of strong men that they can do whatever. They play Superman, but
Yeah.
always that means that there is tons of men that are
Mm,
expressing in a completely different way. And that is kind of the energy trying to, you know, to balance what is going on.
mm.
So what I'm trying to say is this kind of way to express masculinity, it doesn't have a good marketing, let's put it that way. Or
Mm.
it doesn't have publicity.
Yeah.
Because it's still there is the in the collective unconscious, you know, of civilization, those archetypes, you know, I mean the image of archetypes
Mm.
and about somebody that is able to deal with everything. There's no truth by the end. I mean, always there is a Superman has a Clark Kent, always at the other side. But what I want to say is, I think that this movement is a silent movement of this, let's call it new masculinity, or I would say a whole masculinity, more complete,
Exactly.
that is growing. I think that it never stopped and I'm confident. I'm a I'm a sick optimist.
Okay.
So and I believe that this is happening because this is the people I deal with
Uh,
in my work.
wow. Amazing. Amazing. Uh, Lovely. And also, like, you often talk about the five brain leadership.
Yeah.
So, how do these five brains play, like, in the um, identity of a male narrative, basically? So, especially around the emotional expressions, control, like, if you can share.
It's a great question. So it's a metaphor, of course, this framework of five brains because the body works as one, right? In the whole body.
Mm.
The five brain is a way to identify the different narratives, the different
Right.
personalities that we have inside.
Mm.
So the rational that all we understand, the rational thinking, the emotional brain that could be positive, could be negative, but is very influential, and the most powerful one that is the instinctual one.
Mm.
So the survival mode, you know, the most primitive brain, the reptilian, and this brain still is so powerful
Yeah.
for one reason, because it's the oldest one, first of all, 500 million
Mm.
years. And second, we are convinced if we are still alive, was because of survival mechanism. Yeah, okay, I got it. So therefore, the primitive brain that is very primitive
Mm.
is about I win, you lose, is about us versus them, etc. I mean, very
Mm.
basic. This brain is the one that we trust the most still. So we need to learn to trust our emotions in a different way. Another brain that I didn't mention is the intuitive brain. So where the gut feelings, the famous gut feeling centers. Intuition is not magic. I love magic, but it's not magic.
Mm.
Intuition is an algorithm. It's a
Exactly.
combination of all our experiences. I would say humanity experience that we already have it storage in our body. And then we have a question, and in one moment, whoop, you have the answer. What happened here?
Yeah.
It's Google, Google like, it's an algorithm. So,
Exactly.
and if we okay, as a conclusion, what I want to say is I use the metaphor of to be a good leader, you need to learn first how to lead your internal team. So all of us, we have an internal team of 5 members with all these brains. And each of them, they have a different purpose, a different outcome when they intervene. And we need to understand who is talking inside of me. And in that moment, I need to take the control. And when I say I, let me use the sentence, my higher self.
Okay.
That is the one that takes care of everything. If I need to escape, I will awake my reptilian brain and, hey, let's escape, survival, you know what I mean? But if I need to deal with the person, the best way will be to rely on positive emotions, definitely. And the rational brain, that is the newbie in the block, is the one that we trust less because it's too new. And the survival brain and the emotional brain are very clever hijacking the rational brain in their favors. This is the typical conversation between, let's say, two people that they are just arguing and fighting. But if you listen the content, wow, it sounds really rational, but it's not the intention of that person. The intention of that person is to win or to kill the other one. You know what I mean? So what I'm trying to say is it's not hard to start identifying the different narratives. Then take the control and you are free to decide who is in charge. It makes sense what I'm saying.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
And in this new masculinity, and another thing, I said, I mean, when I represent the 5 brains, only one is rational. The other 4 are embedded in emotions and instinct. So it's a it's a good reason to start trying to understand my emotions and learn how to deal with them, mine and others' emotions. Remember that we are emotional beings with a brand new rational software that is still we don't trust. Human brain cannot make 100% rational decisions, cannot. It's not prepared. And we, as a macho men, we were denying that side of us for eons. I mean, for many, many years. No, 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 emotion doesn't exist. We don't talk about that.
Correct.
Okay, if you want, don't talk about that, but you will be influenced all the time. You like it or not. So the new level of masculinity is acknowledging who you are, acknowledging your emotions, and try to learn how to deal with this. And in business is essential, is key.
Very true. Very true. Yep. Wow. So, lovely. That's really lovely. I mean, for many of us, like the emotional numbness isn't a kind of like lack of feeling, but it's actually a survival tactic. But survival mode and the leadership mode don't mix very well, definitely. So that's where the work comes. I mean, work becomes so crucial. So, um, thank you so much for sharing this. And uh, also, like this buzzword, like vulnerability. I mean, it's very common these days, but it is actually loaded with uh, the concept for men. Like, how do you define vulnerability in the leadership? Uh, and all that. So, what do you have to say? Like, how will you define this in terms of leadership, especially in the environment with a lot of high pressures, immediate basis response? So, what do you have to say?
So I work with an assessment that defines different level of leaders and the capability at different level. And the top level, the C level of a leader, will not match that portion of
Mm.
leadership if they are not able to recognize and deal with emotional side.
Hmm.
What I'm trying to say is leadership is about making decisions, it's about leading people, it's about we can do a long, long list we can
Hmm.
make. But
Exactly.
in the end, the new leadership is the ability to include all the parameters. That another thing I need to clarify. The word emotional in any language has a very negative marketing. So it has a negative connotation. We say you are emotional because we're saying you're not able to manage your emotions. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying in any decision making process, always our emotions are involved. In one way, in the way that we see the problem, in the way we analyze the situation. So there is no way to avoid emotional influence in my
Exactly.
decisions.
Exactly.
Then top leaders are the ones that recognize this, that they know how fragile a
Hmm.
decision can be if they don't consider not only the rational analysis, but also the emotional component and the intuition. When I present normally the five brains to executive, when I started many years ago, I was kind of, not afraid, but I say, wow, they will tell me that's touchy feely stuff, I mean, like it's too
Exactly.
emotional. Never, never, never. Every time I presented all these brains, the common, let's say, the common leader comes to me, general leader says, I know perfectly what you're talking about. My team
Exactly.
did the whole rational analysis and they say, hey, we need to go right. And I know because my gut is telling me we need to go left. and, and I don't know how to explain to them. And then I always tell them, don't waste your time because in your gut, there's no an alphabet. So you cannot explain it. You cannot express it. At least in few days you will be able. So more you believe in these sources of information that is embedded in emotions, embedded in intuition, you have more possibilities or higher possibility to arrive to the right conclusion and to the right solution. So the process I work in coaching is to broaden their mind and to accept what they already have. And they were denying, this doesn't exist. No, no, no. Let's see the analysis. And always, of course, I mean, I'm sure you heard about Daniel Kahneman. Daniel Kahneman was, doesn't matter, is a psychologist that won a Nobel Prize of Economics because he was able to define the brain in a very practical way. System one, system two, doesn't matter. But the point is that he was the one, and coming from science and so from Wall Street, he was quite respected, that he said, this doesn't exist a financial rational decision. There's no way. So, and the best example is how the fluctuation of stock market. I mean, it's not a rational process. Goes up, goes down, depends on the emotions of the people involved. Then let's aim those emotions as a normal part of me. Let's take care of them. Let's learn how they deal, how they work, and then I'm raising my level of leadership. Make sense?
Makes sense. Yeah. Makes sense. So, wow. Lovely. And do you find that the leaders who embrace the vulnerability actually gain more authority and the respect?
Absolutely. But depends how they present. I mean,
Okay.
eh, I love the word determination and being firm. If you recognize your vulnerability,
Hmm.
that I told you, I mean, in the way I love to define, I mean, uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure.
Hmm.
If you accept vulnerability, the impact on others is higher respect.
Hmm.
This is a fact. What is the myth? The myth is if I show vulnerability, they will not respect me.
Right.
because they think I'm weak. This is the old and traditional that still is in place way of thinking. When it's exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
Good leaders that show and accept vulnerability, they increase the level of respect by the people around them. This is a fact. There's a lot of research around this. So vulnerability and the recognition of vulnerability as part of your life, that puts you in a higher place as a leader. This is a fact. Even though it's, I would say today is essential. So if you don't recognize vulnerability, you're really don't see it. You don't see the whole picture. I mean, you're missing a lot of things of reality.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Wow. So I mean, yes, definitely. Like, I have to say that I have seen men crack open in moments with deep honesty, not in fall apart, but come more fully together. So that's the kind of strength our culture doesn't talk enough. So yeah. So, from your experience, what role does fatherhood or uh, maybe the lack of initiation from father figures play in the formation of healthy masculinity?
Oh wow. Oh, I this is a strong question because I think that I cannot say a percentage, but the influence of fatherhood in kids is huge. Kids, it's hard the kids will show
Mhm.
emotions if the father doesn't show emotion.
Correct.
And the opposite is also reality.
Yes.
If I see my father, that was my case, I would see my father expressing emotions, being close. I mean, well, I'm Latin culture. We hug, you kiss. I mean, this is normal for our
Mm.
culture. And I receive it from my father, then I will do it myself. And fathers that cannot do it, they are
Mm.
really affecting I would say, the development of their children. Boys and girls, not only boys, because the girl will understand that masculinity means no emotions, no feelings, no expression. And this is very danger.
Got it.
So, your question, the answer is there is a huge influence.
Got it. Mm.
The impact of fatherhood on the way kids understand masculinity is crucial.
Understood. No, definitely. That is very true. A great impact also. Like, I mean, so many men carry that father wounds, and uh, not just from what was done, but like from what was not present.
Exactly.
And yeah, and we either run from that or we build on it. So either way, we are shaped by it. So thank you so much for sharing this. And so this might sounds contradictory, but it's actually not. Like some people argue that redefining masculinity can lead to the erosion of gender identity altogether. So how do you hold that space of, I mean, for the masculine energy while also evolving its expression?
We need to clarify and make the good definition of things. We are talking about masculinity is independent of sexual choice.
Yeah.
So this is a completely different group, and I respect 100%. Gender identification is one thing,
Okay.
and we know, and it's a huge topic, but it's not connected with what we are talking today.
Yeah.
When I told you, when I was leading this men group in Argentina, in the group we were all men, but with different sexual orientation. There were gays, there were bisexual, so that was not the issue.
Mm.
The issue is what you do with your masculinity in the way to express.
Mm.
Your sexual orientation is a very personal thing that needs to be respected, but it's a different realm. Make sense? It's important because you are totally right. Many people they mixed up and they think that new masculinity means a different gender attraction or no. This is a different topic that depends on different parameters,
Yeah.
physiological parameters. I mean, emotional parameters, psychological. It's a completely different story.
Mm.
So, and you can live this new masculinity being straight, being gay, being bisexual. That is not the point. This is a second component of the story. Makes sense what I'm saying?
Makes sense, yes.
So I want to respect the two of them, and I want to clarify that is a different realm. That they are connected, yeah, but masculinity is me as in my expression, a male expression, let's say, unless it's transgender. That the, you know, we need to clarify this as well. If the person was born in one gender, in one sex, and then feels strongly that it's a different one, this is a different story. So this is a different story because those people, I'm convinced, maybe they were born male, but they are female, and vice versa. Okay. But this is
Right.
a fact, and this is something that is, thanks God, we are able to see it now and to help to be expressed in a normal way. But this is a different topic. The topic that we are talking today is males that wants to express their masculinity in a more complete way. And when I say complete, is accepting, understanding, being aware of all these emotional components that all of us we have.
True. Exactly. Wow. And is it possible to protect the sacred aspects of masculinity, like without uh clinging the outdated expression of power?
I Let's put it this way. It's a great question. You can keep your power, you can be a great leader.
Mhm.
And again, I think that the best leaders are those that can recognize these kind of things. You don't need to you don't need to show off about this. So that's not needed. Is the way you listen to people, is the way you accept, is the way you empathize with people, is the way you behave in your daily basis. What I'm trying to say is when I see those macho men trying to express so much their masculinity, as a medical doctor, I say, something doesn't smell good here. you know?
Yeah.
So what this person is hiding, that's for sure,
Yeah.
is hiding something inside that they don't have the strength, they don't have the power to express it.
Exactly.
So and that those kind of extremes, I say, no, come on, this is not real. Something's going on here.
Yep.
And the masculinity that we are talking today that involves, accepts, recognize
Yeah.
emotions, let's put it that way, that is the one that will take our society to a better place. No doubt. So the other one that plays an extreme identification with
Mm.
the old way to understand masculinity. So with the sword and killing people or whatever. So
Mm.
that is not the one that will take us to the next step in civilization. So this kind of thing is not by chance that you are doing this podcast, some other people doing similar podcast at the same age. So it just it's not by chance. The movement is there. The energy is there. And the energy already found the way to express itself through males that are completely mindful of the need of talk about emotions and consider emotions as a normal part of masculinity.
Exactly. Wow. Wow, what a powerful and brain expanding heart opening conversation today, Carlos, and thank you so much. And so, dear listeners, like we are not here to tear that masculinity down, but we are here to free it,
Exactly.
stretch it, yeah, to bring it to the alignment with uh, the full spectrum of who we
Absolutely.
are. Oh yeah, so it's very transparent for sure. So
Yeah.
and as Carlos so brilliantly reminds us that this is not just about our individual growth. It's all about reshaping the systems, relationships, cultures that
Exactly.
yeah, so that desperately need a new model of the leadership. So one that is brain smart, heart led, and uh, uh, soul aligned, I have to say. So
Love it.
that's really amazing,
Love it.
Carlos. And dear listeners, if today's episode has moved you, challenged you, or maybe um, made you rethink your own story, then share it. Start a conversation, and remember that the most uh, masculine thing you can do to make just the most human, to feel, to listen, to grow, and many more. So just do it. And before we move, Carlos, if someone wants to connect with you, have a discussion, how they can connect.
The easiest is my website, that is www.carlosdavidovich.com, or in LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the social media I use the most. Carlos Davidovich, MD. I mean, you will find me, and neuroscience and neuromanagement, and you will find me easily. And I'm totally open to keep this kind of conversation with you, with anyone from your audience.
Amazing. So, with this hope, dear listeners, until next time, this is your host Avik signing off from Mind Over Masculinity. Stay brave, stay open, and above all, stay you. So, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.